Hi there, Betina from Born Witchy here. Today I'm going to do a tarot card reading for the collective regarding how we can approach this moment of discomfort that we are all in. How can we find comfort and freedom and hope in this moment of discomfort and restriction that we are all going through? I am using a spread that I learned from a fellow witch and one of my teachers, Casey Zabala of the Wanderer's Tarot from San Francisco, and I'm using a deck from another San Francisco witch, the Lioness Oracle. It's a little shout out to my home away from home in San Francisco today. And so this is a spread that's focused on self-care, and it's a good one to do for yourself, but it's also, I thought, a good one for me to do for the collective, because we're all kind of in this collective experience together right now. And I know just from speaking with friends and from my own experience and my family that we're all experiencing this moment of discomfort and anxiety and looking for ways to get through this crisis, this moment of crisis in our lives, this moment of uncertainty and discomfort. Okay, I keep saying those words, I guess because that's the theme. So I've laid the cards already. I pulled them earlier with a group on Instagram that I did this reading for, and I wanted to share it here on YouTube as well, in case anybody else could use this guidance during this time. So here I'll show you, I'll just flip you guys around for a second so you can see the cards that have come up. So here we have the card representing our higher self in this moment. Here we have the gift from our higher self in this moment, like the message that they're bringing forward for us, that we, our intuition, our higher selves are bringing forward for us. Down here, this card represents the nourishment that our body desires at this time. This card here on the left represents how our anxiety is expressing itself right now, our worry or anxiety. And this here represents the healing, where we're going to find our healing in this moment, or where we're going to find our comfort, how we're going to ease that feeling of discomfort that we are all going through. So here we go. So for the higher self, we have this card of the world. And for the gift from the higher self, I find this so interesting. We have the card of the Fool. And so these two cards are bookends in a way, or they're just, next to each other in a circle is more like how I like to think of it. But in the major arcana, we have these 22 cards, starting with the Fool. It's number 0, it's the first one. And the Fool goes on the Fool's journey, which ends at the World, the 22nd card. And so it's this idea that we have these 22 cards that represent these major archetypal moments that all of us as humans can relate to in the human experience. And we ourselves, we are the Fool, and we go through all of those to then come to this realization of the world. So our higher self right now is coming forward as the world. And the thing that comes forward to mind for me most strongly with that is this idea that we contain worlds within us. We contain multitudes within us. We have infinite wisdom within us, just as we are right now. We don't need to go outside to a guru or to a teacher to access that inner knowing. I find that really fascinating. And I also, it's not like there's a destination or an end point. You get to this point and right away there's something new to learn, there's some new adventure to go on, there's some new challenge to face, and so we begin the Fool's journey again. As I said on Instagram earlier today, life is much more like a spiral than like a straight line. And so we spiral around this, constant learning, constant Fool's journey over and over again throughout our lives. And we are at a major turning point right now. We are on the cusp of being asked to go on another journey of the Fool. Maybe we even feel like we are on one right now, because this is such an unprecedented situation in the world. Most of us have never dealt with anything that's similar to this, and no one has ever dealt with something similar to this on this scale, on this global pandemic scale that it's on. So we really have to approach life with a beginner's mind right now. But we also have agency and wisdom to guide us. We're jumping into the unknown, but we're not ill-equipped. We are much more equipped maybe than we feel. And so I think we can find a lot of comfort in that, in knowing that this is a new beginning and that has positives with it, that the new normal that we're going to create after this is not going to be the old normal. It's going to be something new, and it's going to be informed by this inner wisdom that we have. We're being asked to sit at home with ourselves right now. We're being asked to sit and reflect. We're being asked to harness the tools that we have within us, everything that we've learned throughout our lives, and really think, What is important moving forward? What needs to fall away? So the message from our higher self is really this message of completion, this message of a full circle. Like maybe one world has kind of ended. The world as we know it does feel like it has ended, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Of course, it's anxiety inducing. We're letting go of so much of what we're used to, but it gives us the opportunity to then start fresh and start anew and to bring the best of ourselves forward into that newness. So here at the base, we have another very strong, very beautiful Major Arcana card, the High Priestess. This is a card that I resonate with a lot. I meditate with her. I see myself in her. It's an archetype that I really relate to. It's part of why I do this kind of work. It's part of why I do yoga and meditation and all these kind of mystical practices. The High Priestess represents the intuition. It represents sort of that psychic aspect of us. Whether or not you buy into the idea of psychic gifts, we all have that sort of spidey sense, that sort of something that knows without you really knowing, you know? It's like when you know somebody's going to call you and then they do, or when you have a feeling that you should go somewhere and you go and some opportunity presents itself to you, or you keep hearing the name of the same book or the same song or whatever and you go check it out and it has a message for you within it. That's the sort of communication of the High Priestess, the communication of the intuition. And this card here is what our body is craving right now in terms of self-care, in terms of how we can comfort ourselves during this time. And it's saying that what our body needs right now is to go into this yin, sort of receptive, intuitive aspect of self, where we can hear that inner knowing, where we can become reacquainted with this world within us, with these gifts that we already have, with like these tools that we need to move forward. They're all there. In order to see that, we need to get a little bit quiet and sit with it. We need to get a little bit intuitive. So what can you give yourself right now that's going to get you into that intuitive kind of space? Things that I do, I take baths, I take Epsom salt baths, I take long showers, well, not super long, but just I take showers and baths. You know, we do that every day. We shower every day, but when I find that when I'm in the shower, it's like this moment where I kind of have quiet and white noise and my mind can kind of shut off and I can sort of not be worrying about to-do lists too much and just hear my inner messages. Also, sometimes when I'm cooking, like if I'm making a big stew or something and I'm just doing all the chopping, I kind of go into that flow state with my mind. If you have a meditation practice, if you have a yoga practice, if you like to run and that kind of gets you in that runner's flow, if you like to go on hikes or walks, you choose, you decide what it is that gets you into that flowy state where you're not listening so much to the chatter in your mind and you're just kind of quiet and you're just kind of flowing with whatever you're doing. Maybe you're making something with your hands. Maybe you're an artist or you like to sew or knit or you like to make collages. All of these things are things that you can do to get in touch with your intuition. And that's the message of this spread right now, is that those things that get you into flow, that get you in touch with that sort of inner messaging part of yourself is going to help you to deal with the discomfort of the moment. Here on the left, we have the card that represents how our anxiety is expressing itself at the moment. It's the Six of Swords. So far we've only had Major Arcana cards. So from that grouping of 22 that I spoke about that represent the major archetypes in life, the rest of the cards, it's a 78 card deck, the rest of the cards are reflected in the like the regular suits in a deck of playing cards. You know, you have clubs, spades, etc. In the tarot, we also have 4 suits, and each one represents a different element. So the suit of swords has to do with the element of wind or air, and that has to do with the intellect and thinking and communication. If you're into astrology, then air signs, Libra, Gemini, Aquarius, like the different things that you associate with those signs, with the air element, are all embodied by that suit. And the Six of Swords, this has to do with a moment of grief, but where there's a light seen at the end of the tunnel. So it's like the challenge is present, the difficulty is present. We are all very aware of the difficulty that is present right now. And we are grieving, we're letting go of an old world, maybe of our old selves. Maybe here at home, we're really starting to think about things we no longer need. We have an opportunity kind of right now to kind of KonMari our lives, and on a grander scale to sort of KonMari the world, like decide what are we going to take forward into the future and what are we going to leave behind. So there is this sort of feeling of loss and grief, but there's also this feeling of hope imbued with it. And you even see that in the imagery of the card. It's like there's darkness at the bottom, but there's these beautiful flowers blooming, like where we're going, what we're going to swim towards. We know that there's beauty on the other side of this. It's like somewhere in our intuition, somewhere deep down, we know that not all is lost. A lot is lost. A lot is lost. Life has been lost. Ways of living have been lost. Our routines, the things that comfort us, the things we do on the day-to-day have been lost. Jobs have been lost. But it's like this card is representing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So the way our anxiety, our discomfort is expressing itself right now is through sadness and grief. But maybe there's an undertone of hope and of maybe a little spidey sense kind of knowing that there's something good coming, whatever it might be. So finally, we end on the note of the Five of Pentacles. This is what the cards today are asking us to focus on for our healing. And the Five of Pentacles, the fives, they're always challenging cards. So it's interesting to find this in this placement of something that is here to help us. So how do we unpack that? So the Pentacles, so similarly, Swords has to do with air, Pentacles or coins has to do with the element of earth, material things, the structures in our lives, things of value. That's what this suit has to do with. So if you're into astrology, that would be Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Those are the signs that deal with the the earth element. And the Five of Pentacles, you can maybe sort of see here, it's like these two figures cast out in the rain, separated from the abundance represented here in this corner. And I want to bring forth the imagery in the traditional versions of these cards. It's these figures walking by a church, and that's kind of this idea that there's this institution, there's this sanctuary there, but they are apart from it. They are other from it. They are outsiders. They can somehow not access, either because they don't want to or because they've been cast away or turned away. So there's this idea, there's this feeling, this worry right now that our structures are, the center can no longer hold, the structures are no longer supporting us. That is a lot of what this card represents, and this is where our healing is. Like, this tells me that our healing is going to come from the ability to rethink how we structure our lives, how we structure our world, how we want our institutions to be, and how we want them to support us moving forward, and knowing that we have some agency over that as a collective, that if enough of us come together and decide we want this and this and this to be different, all of this was proven to be broken by this collective experience of the pandemic that we just went through. How do we want to rebuild? These first two cards of the World and the Fool that we went through, I think, really show how much agency we really have coming out of this situation. And this card is showing that it's very structural. The change, the healing is very structural. It's like we literally right now, in order to heal ourselves, we need to get rid of stuff that we don't need on the physical plane, in terms of the stuff we have, in terms of the way we have set up our lives. Like, maybe some people are going to go through major career change after this. They're going to have some realizations. Maybe people are going to decide they want to live in a different kind of environment on a personal level. On a more global collective level, like maybe we're going to decide that we want to band together to change the way certain institutions and governings are run. So that's where the healing is. The healing is in the restructuring of things. And if you're taking this on a personal level, yeah, just start small. Just start with yourself. Sit with yourself, see what you hear, and be really, really honest of the things that you don't need around you anymore and get rid of them, you know? Do that spring cleaning. So I feel like this was a really hopeful reading for where we are today. I think it gives us a lot of agency and feeling of power. And it transmits this message of I love this idea of the worlds within us, the multitudes that we contain. Because we really do. And what we need to do right now is put our oxygen mask on first. I talk about that metaphor a lot when I talk to my tarot clients, because I think it's really relevant. You cannot heal anyone else. You cannot heal the world without starting with yourself. You begin with you. And by healing yourself, by taking care of yourself, by giving yourself self-care, you're not being selfish, because it has a trickle-out effect on everyone around you. When you feel more well, you treat those around you in a different way. When you treat yourself better, you treat others better. So it's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's actually the greatest act of love that you can possibly do. And it's really, really imperative that all of us do that right now. We have that opportunity right now. And so let's please do it, because that is what's going to help us to restructure our world, to return to a new normal rather than an old normal, and, you know, come out of this experience in a stronger, happier, more aligned, more authentic, more fulfilling place. So I hope that was interesting for you. If you have any questions, you can find me on Instagram at Born Witchy or at Betina Bethlehem. I also give private readings, one-on-one basis. You can check my Instagram or my website to contact me for that. I think that there's a link somewhere on this YouTube where you can find it for my website. And if not, I hope you enjoyed this reading, and you can find me weekly on my Instagram giving live readings as well, and I'll be posting them here too. Have a beautiful day. I hope you're all well, and I'll see you next time. This is Betina Bethlehem signing off. Thanks again. Bye-bye.